Sorry.
We're going to call the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission to order for Monday, June 5th, 2023. At this time, I'm going to record a few people that are absent but excused. Member Moxley, member Engel. I think that's it, right?
Yep.
So are absent but excused. Let's move on to Article 2, which is Pledge Allegiance. Please stand if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll move on to Article 3, approve the current agenda.
So move.
Moved by member Rissy, supported by
Approved.
member Roland. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, we'll move on. Go to Article 4. Would anybody like to disclose a conflict of interest with what we have on? Yes,
Well, I don't have a conflict of interest, but in my mind, I feel that I may have a non-neutral, somewhat biased alliance of interest with Article 7, the Whitneyville one. I live very near there. And I agree with what they're trying to do. I feel like being a neighbor of them maybe makes me less neutral than a normal voter would be.
so does anybody have a concern with that?
Nope.
Hearing none. Yeah, hearing none, you're on. Did anybody else wish to disclose a conflict of interest? Member Rissy?
I've mentioned this before, case number 223739 North Point Bank, that my company does do some maintenance for them. I don't think it's anything related to this project at this time. It's been brought to my attention, but
Is
I just
there-
wanted to throw that out
Is
there.
there business material to your business? Is it more than 1% of your revenues?
No,
Okay.
no,
Want to make sure that everybody has that.
teeny
clear.
tiny.
Yep. Does anybody have any concerns with that?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Any other conflicts of interest that people would like to disclose? Leslie, am I doing all right on this?
Yep, sound good.
Thank you. Leslie is our legal counsel. It says Mike Homier, but it should say Leslie. But is our legal counsel and she keeps us honest on these things. All right, let's move on to Article 5 and approve the minutes from the May 15th, 2023 meeting. I hear a motion.
I have a couple of
Yes,
minor.
member Brunel, let's hear it.
Let's see here on page, or the page numbers here, on page 4.
Page
This
4
is-
of the packet or the minutes?
Page 4 of the packet, I believe.
Thank you.
Start with approximately 6,000.
It does.
Okay.
So the last sentence before the bolded motion was made by. This is one of the questions I asked. It's minor, but just for clarification. It wasn't clear if the small rain garden was existing or going to be added, and the way it's worded here is it's existing, but the very next page clarifies that it's going to be added. So if we can clarify that somehow. It says there is a small rain garden that was provided, so is and was.
I understood it to, and we'll have Brian check it, but I understood that rainwater garden was already there.
Now, there's a retention pond, but no rain garden, because
Oh, there's not.
it's not there, and the
Correct,
next
yep.
paragraph talks
Yep,
about.
yeah, they're adding it as part.
So
of the
they're adding it,
project.
so we need to clarify. Okay.
Yep.
And then one other, yeah, I was lucky because I was the one who actually asked that question, so.
Yeah.
So page 5, again, I think it's what's the next to last sentence before the bolded motion was made by member A. Member Bruno did not believe the 20th Street Court could support additional traffic and that there's a need to investigate the mechanism of the issue. That's kind of confusing to me, need to investigate the mechanism of the issue. Need to investigate a mechanism to improve roads. I specifically said a mechanism to go from a private to a public.
Okay.
So the issue is a weird wording there. And that is the only two that I think need to be corrected. And then there's one clarification, page 7, right before Article 10. Member Roland expressed concern with the smoking outside. Smith's location of the patio should mitigate the smell of other members of the club. I think he went on to actually say that I'd raised the issue about being close to the Goddard School. He said being on the east side, it would be a block from the wind and it wouldn't protect the members, it would protect the general public in the school, I think is what he'd said.
Okay, are you all right with that, Member Rowland?
Yeah.
Okay, with those amendments, will you make a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I hear support.
Support.
Support from Member Rowland. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, we'll move forward. Okay. We have Article 6, acknowledge visitors wishing to speak. We do limit comments to 5 minutes per speaker. We have a public hearing for all but the North Point Bank. So if you're here for one of the agenda items and wish to speak, we have public hearings then. So, but if you're here for another reason or wish to speak about North Point Bank, feel free to step forward. To ask that you state your name and your address for the record. Do we have anybody on Zoom? No. All right, I'm going to move forward. Let's go to Article 7, case number 23-3763. Fitzgibbon. We have Madison that's going to do it for us, right? Awesome.
2 roles today.
Yeah, 2.
Gonna be difficult to run that public hearing.
Okay, tonight we have Heidi and Patrick Fitzgibbon, who are pursuing a type 2 special use permit to operate a bed and breakfast at 5283 Whitneyville Avenue Southeast. That's in our ARC district. And tonight they are looking for a recommendation to go for approval to the Township Board. The applicant is looking to use a portion of their home as a bed and breakfast. And it is a home that was built back in 1853, and the applicant's narrative got into some details about they call it the Whitney Tavern Stand, and it was previously an inn back in the day, which is what kind of inspired the current use that they are looking to get approval for. There's approximately 500 square feet of the home that are used for the B&B, and the rest is for Patrick and Heidi. It's their living space. It's a single family home. The application was given to the fire department and the building officials, and they have asked that a smoke detector be added in each room, and a carbon monoxide detector in each room, and have an ABC fire extinguisher on the main level, which the applicant has agreed to. The applicant has also spoken with the Kent County Health Department, who doesn't require any licenses, and I did confirm that with the Michigan Food Law Act 92 of 2000. So in considering a bed and breakfast, which the township has not yet done to our awareness, there is certain criteria. So the conditions for special use permit approval that we consider are in Chapter 17. So to go over those, the ordinance is asking that the B&B be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the area in which the use is proposed. And because the home will remain appearing the same as a single family home, and refer to the applicant, but it might have actually been there before anything else. So I would say that that does make it consistent and harmonious with its surroundings. The traffic congestion section, I had written only up to 3 guests at a time. I just need to make a correction there. It's 5 guests, but there's 3 beds, just to make that correction. So I did not believe that would cause additional traffic congestion on Whitneyville to have 5 guests at a time maximum in the tavern. The bed and breakfast should not involve any uses, activities, or processes, materials, equipment, or conditions of operation that would be detrimental to persons, property, or just the general welfare of the township or nearby. The applicants have indicated that they don't host any events here. The guests don't even necessarily use the pool that they have on the property. They just use the quarters that are indicated in the site plan. So there would be no excess noise, smoke, fume, glare, odor, or traffic. Applicable federal, state, and local licensing regulations should be complied with. And again, the Kent County health standards, they are not required to get a license for the food service that they do. And they have met other requirements. The use is subordinate to the principal use of the single family dwelling. And again, they're looking to use about 11% of their home. And that also meets the no more than 50% of the dwelling unit. So it is an accessory use to the main use on the property. When considering all these facts, I felt comfortable that their application does adhere to our zoning requirements. And so I would recommend that you guys recommend to the Township Board of Trustees that they approve the bed and breakfast, the fire code. There's conditions that I set, which are the three. The fire code requirements must be met, the building code requirements must be met, and then the Kent County Health Department permits obtained if required, which since this I have determined is not needed.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Madison? Yes, Member Rowland.
Yeah, I got a couple. There's only 2 parking spaces and you said there's a maximum of 5 people. Is 2 parking spaces enough for, like when we do other things, it's usually, I mean, there's a certain number and I know you can park in the driveway, but a driveway is not really a parking space. So.
Right. So yeah, the applicant indicated they have 2 parking spaces on their plan and that the driveway is for overflow parking if needed. It just has never been needed. So I guess if they can, the ordinance stated per unit,
So if there's 3 beds, 3 units.
then
3
they
parking
should have.
spaces.
But I believe the applicant can confirm, but it's only 1 rental to be all bedrooms would be rented together.
Okay, okay. And then the other question.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, that clears it up. Thank you. And then is this required to have handicap accessible as a business?
It wasn't. Oh, that's a good question.
I would leave that to the building department and their codes, and that's something they should be able to, they'll either let the applicant know and be able to speak to that.
And they did see this site application and reviewed it as well.
And then if I understand correctly, this was a B&B at one time, but that was like a long time ago.
Yeah, so that was kind of what I mentioned. And I think the applicant Heidi can speak more to the history of the property and how it was used because she knows a lot about it. But yes, it is a previous use that it used to be an inn or bed and breakfast.
Or just one more, and I'm just confirming it.
Yeah.
There is a sign on the property right now.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yep, a
That was my question. I just wanted to
3x2
confirm.
sign
Okay.
that says Whitney Tavern Stand.
Member Bernal, and then Member Nordhook.
So my questions might be moved after this, but I walked with something different. So let me find the right screen here. So it's several spots, it flips and flops. 3 guests at a time can stay at the breakfast in 3 rooms. And then it talks about 5 guests and then talks about 3 beds. And then her application actually states 2 bedrooms and 1 is a common space. And the ordinance states that per bed, there must be a parking spot, not per unit. So by my math, if there's 3 beds, there should be 3 parking spaces. And if there's 3 beds, then there should be 3 bedrooms, but she has a common space. So I'm just kind of generally confused.
So I made the one note about my staff report that it should say 5 guests, not 3 guests. So the maximum guests that could stay at a time is 5. The number of beds is 3. but the number of units to rent is one.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
Somewhat, but it still doesn't, I think, align with her application. Maybe I need to ask the question of her.
But the
Are you referring to the narrative?
Space per bed, right? The ordinance with the ordinance.
I believe the applicant's here. I'm gonna hold that question, but
Okay.
all right, until the applicant comes
Yeah.
forward. Member Nordhook and member Ritchie.
Well, first of all, I think this would be a nice fit for the community, but I do have some concerns. I'll call it creep. We're having big issues with hotels down by 28th and the Expressway. And I just want to make sure as part of this special use permit that it states is there going to be bed and breakfast, like a 7-night stay or a 10-night stay max. It's not going to get into temporary housing or turn into apartment with this use. So that's my concern. I just want to put a stop to that.
There is no kitchen.
I'm gonna ask that you hold your comments because we can't record them. So when you come forward, I want them in the minutes. So
Do you want me to come forward?
no, when we come to, I'll ask you to come up. So I want to have the public hearing and then we'll ask you to come up. Member Rissy and then member Bruno.
I don't wanna. I don't wanna muddy the waters, but yeah, I like the sounds of this. I think it sounds like a good idea. I agree with Timmy that we need to have a maybe as a condition, we have a cap on the length of stay per visitor. But my question for Madison is, have you had discussion with the applicant related to the 5 guests? Is that a number that they are comfortable with? Or I guess the meat of this is when you get in with children, does it, at what age does a child count as a guest? Because I'm thinking of a family of, is if you have, I guess what I need to clarify is, are they renting out these rooms to separate groups? Or is it one group would take both bedrooms together as one unit? Or is it, Alan's family might rent one bedroom for a weekend and Chris's family might come into the other bedroom for a weekend. And just so happens with, they're over count. Is that?
So my understanding from the applicant is that they have one unit and they can rent that one unit out to up to 5 people because of the
Okay,
bed capacity can
we
hold
ask
5.
that question of the applicant?
Yeah.
we could, I'm just, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
So, yeah, it's
Give
my
them a chance to
understanding
prepare.
that
Yeah.
if 2 people rented it, they would still have both bedrooms and it wouldn't be like, oh,
So they can't rent to, the way we would make this approval is they would only be renting to one
unit,
unit at a
guest,
time.
one reservation, you could
One
say,
responsible party.
yes.
Okay.
All right, member Bruno.
Just still more confusion. I'm the newbie here, but if I pull up section 17 of the ordinances, some of this is just, it's black and white and we're making it gray, I think. There should be 2 off-street parking spaces for the owner and 1 off-street parking space per room to be rented. Per room, not per unit, not per resident,
Okay.
it's just the ordinance. And it also covers the maximum stay of 30 days. It also covers, and the only reason I'm kind of belaboring this number of rooms. I mean, I'm supportive of it as long as we follow the ordinance.
Yeah.
Her rendering shows 2 bedrooms in a common area, and the common area I think is fine with the little kind of, she describes it as I want to use her words. Small sitting room with kitchen amenities. If it's a small sitting room with kitchen amenities, I think it follows the ordinance. If it's a 3rd bedroom, the ordinance specifically states there can be no kitchen entities in a bedroom.
Okay, so let's ask the applicant for clarification and we may drag you back up here, Madison.
Okay.
Thank you, Madison.
Does anybody else have anything else before Madison goes? All right, why don't we bring the applicant up and then we'll do the public hearing. And again, if you can state your name and address so we have it and we record the minutes at the microphone. That's why I stopped you earlier. All right,
Heidi Fitzgibbon and 5283 Whitneyville in Alto. To answer your question, there are no beds in the sitting room. It is just a small love seat and a desk and a small table with 2 chairs along with the kitchen amenities. So that is all that's there. And then, right, it's only, you have one responsible party who rents, and it's usually a husband and a wife, with a couple children possibly. Usually husband and wife are from what we have had. So, yes.
So I noticed there's a garage on the drawing. Do you guys park your vehicles in the garage?
Sometimes,
So and I'm speaking out loud here, right?
Yeah.
My thought is the garage is is that a 2-car garage?
3-car.
So there's 3 spots right there.
Yep.
And then the 2 spots that she has right here by the sitting room satisfy the ordinance. Because there's 2 rooms.
Even if they're not absolutely, if she's renting 2 rooms, perfect. I have an agreement.
That's correct.
Just solved your parking problem.
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we start barraging you with questions?
No, I think,
Barrage.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
I hope I explained the room situation. So, okay,
Yeah, I get it.
yes. So any other questions? Yes.
Now is this currently being rented out as like an Airbnb?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the drawing, I wasn't sure what this is. I guess it would be west of the 2 parking spaces. Is that like a wall or some sort of
No pathway probably.
Right. It's the sidewalk.
It's stone
So the
pathway.
edge there, yep. And so you're on the side
That's right here.
and the majority of the driveway is straight ahead.
Okay, member, let's see.
When you have people stay, what is the average length of stay for them?
Average would be 2 nights.
Okay. What is the longest you've had somebody stay, you think, to the best you can?
Yeah,
recall?
yeah, close to 7 days.
Okay,
And usually if it's kind of a family reunion situation, coming to the area.
sure.
We've had people who will say there's not enough space where the reunion is, so we need kind of overflow. And then they'll come for that. Usually if it's a wedding, it's a 2-day activity, a graduation, 2 or 3 days. And it's usually for events from for family is what that's been the majority.
So if you were limited to 10 overnight stays, consecutive stays, that would not be an inconvenience to you, you don't think?
You mean if somebody came for 10 nights? Is that
No,
what
I
you're
mean,
saying?
if we made a condition of this,
Oh.
that a person cannot stay more than 10 consecutive nights.
That would not be an issue.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right, and then maybe a little history here.
Yeah.
I've heard that Abraham Lincoln stayed there years ago. Do you can you verify if that's true or not?
I can verify that is an oral tradition.
Okay.
That people, if you can go back in the books, there are many books for the
Yeah.
area. And one person said, I remember my grandparent telling me, so this would be a person who's,
Okay.
80, repeating a story from childhood. Lincoln did campaign for a friend in 1857 in the Grand Rapids area, supposedly. And that's when he would have come. The only way to go
Sure.
from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids was on Whitneyville
Sure.
Road. And so, which is why Mr. Whitney built the tavern there so that he could have a kind of a public place as well as hotel rooms. And so the story is he stopped, mailed a letter, because that was also the post office, and then went on into Grand Rapids. So if it's true or false, I would love to find official through, and I keep looking.
Okay.
Because I really, really, really would love to find that officially written.
I was
but
just curious. Thank
yeah.
you for the background.
Yes,
Excellent. Does anybody have anything else for the applicant? Thank you so much for your time.
you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
I would hear a motion at this time to go to public hearing.
So move.
Moved by member Rissy, supported by member Nordhook. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are in public hearing. If anybody has anything to say about this matter, Madison, anybody on Zoom yet? Okay. I did get feedback that the video is not working on the Zoom, so
She can multitask.
all right, well, does anybody, all right, I would hear a motion to move out of public hearing.
So move.
Moved by member Rissy, supported by member Nordhook. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Okay, we have any discussion? Or we want to take a crack at this?
So I have some discussion.
Let's hear it.
You know, I'd like to make sure that Brian makes a note to have the building guys make sure that doesn't need to be handicap accessible to have a business there.
We can make that part of the approval too.
Yeah. I'd also like something that says.
Check, not that it's required.
Well, checked, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's checked.
Yep.
I would also like to say like. Maybe just add to the existing sign. I don't want to put a second sign up there. Maybe add to it, you know, underneath bed and breakfast, something like that. Or tear that sign down and put another one up that adds the bed and breakfast piece to it, but I don't want to have two signs there. You already have a sign. And I don't want it to go higher or low. I just, you know, make it work with what you have or within the dimensions that you have. You know what I mean?
The sign, original historical at all that we know of.
I am not sure. I know we actually replaced the sign 2 years ago and made it a complete duplicate of
Yeah.
what was already there. So I'm not sure how long it looks historical. But
Would you be open to a second sign or some variation what he's talking about?
I would be open. I
Okay.
mean, I don't, yeah. I
Did
think
you
it
play
would,
that sign?
I mean, are you planning to just leave the sign there or are you planning to put another sign that says bed and breakfast? Or how does the signage, how do you envision the signage?
I mean, I feel like just with Whitney Tavern stand, it kind of sticks to the history of what it was.
And that's all you want?
And I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay.
Just, yeah, and I think, I mean, we have two address signs.
Okay.
So, you know, with our number on it, actually there's 3, but 2 that you can really see very well.
Okay. So you're not looking for any additional signage?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
but
It's
I mean,
ambivalent to your sign idea.
This is fine. I mean, I don't want, you know,
Solves a problem that doesn't exist.
yeah.
No problem.
So on the discussion, I'd just like to see the conditions that I think our application is very well done. There just was some confusion on top of that. Can we specifically put a condition that it's 2 bedrooms for rent as
If you make the
drawn in
motion,
the sketch or whatever?
if you make the motion, you can make the conditions, whatever.
Okay, because that satisfies
Yeah.
the ordinance really well with the
We
2
can
parking
put-
spaces and the kitchen amenities and all
Yeah,
that.
we can put member Rawlings request that we check if there's a requirement for a handicap parking spot as well.
We'll move this together. It's fair.
Member Nordhook.
I think we'd like to have that 10-day limit on there.
Well, I have a whole list of things.
Okay, well, then I just want to make
You
sure.
wanna
it doesn't
take a
creep
crack
into-
at
I was going to, but now I'm afraid to. I want to omit his desires.
So on the condition of the 10 days, though, can we go against, the ordinance specifically says they can have up to 30 days, so
We can't exceed the ordinance. We can in fact, and
Okay.
Leslie keeping honest, but yes.
Okay,
We
I
can,
just wanted to clarify that.
And I just want to make sure that it doesn't turn into temporary housing
Oh, I get you.
or
That we have
apartment
that problem.
complex. So that's my concern.
Perfect.
Well, and the other thing is, should we put this on the list of something to potentially, you know, create a B&B ordinance? I mean, if this is, do we foresee like this may?
do we see more than? We see
With just
demand
one
for a
request, I
B&B?
don't think it's time
Okay.
to do that yet.
Okay.
I
That'd be
think
my
it's worthy
opinion.
of keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
So member Rissy, do you want to take a shot at this, including, and then we can amend?
Well, if he can help me with what
I
he
just see all
wants,
the
I
stuff
can
he had
try
written
to.
down. That's why
I think we've addressed most of it now, so I was just gonna say, well, I'll start and then you can add to it. And
Fair.
for support,
Tag
does
team.
that work?
Can
We'll
do.
tag team
We
this
can
one.
support.
Right, so case number 23-3763, 5283 Whitneyville Avenue. Recommendation to the Township Board of Trustees for approval of the following conditions. Fire code requirements must be met. The building code requirements must be met, which shall include but not be limited to staff's review of whether or not handicap accessibility is required. And the Kent County Health Department permits are obtained if required. And visitors are limited to 10 consecutive nights as the maximum length of stay. And that would be my motion this
No
far.
additional signage.
No additional signage is granted with this approval this time.
And going back one. Renters are limited to 10 consecutive days across.
10
No more
nights.
than, or 10 nights across no more than 2 bedrooms.
No more, okay, so they can stay 10 consecutive nights in no more than the 2 bedrooms provided as part of this with,
Per the applicant sketch.
right, per the site.
We clean
plan.
on that, Leslie? She's giving an odd look.
Boy,
I just want to, I just kind of trying to clarify what the addition. I mean, you could simply just say consistent with the ordinance, if that makes it a little bit easier.
I think
What
for
are you
maintenance is
trying to-
30 days. We want it 10 days.
And then
Right, but what was the?
Two
what-
bedrooms is what she's.
I just limit the unit to 2 bedrooms. Is that what we're?
Is that what you're trying to?
Yeah,
I thought that was
2 bedrooms. 'Cause
clear because the application is for 2 bedrooms, so.
The
No, the app-
application was, but everything that the township did was for 3 bedrooms. And the 3rd bedroom then violates, if there's three,
I
there's
have to
3
read it
bedrooms,
that
I've got a
way.
3rd parking spot. And if there's 3 bedrooms, then you can't have kitchen stuff in the 3rd bedroom.
So the two things are not connected. So it limited to 10
Right.
days.
Yeah, I don't think I would add the 2 bedroom limitation to the 10-day consecutive day
Yeah,
condition,
okay.
because I don't
They're
think.
two
they're
separate, sure.
necess- Yeah,
Sure, okay.
I would do 10 consecutive days and then just say the number of bedrooms permitted is 2, consistent with the zoning ordinance, something to that effect.
Perfect.
So everything I originally stated, plus this approval is granting them 2 bedrooms as their renting unit.
Correct.
Motion is made by member Rissy, supported by
Member
Support.
Brunel.
Brunel. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
that wasn't too painful.
No, it was painful.
It was kind of painful. All right, let's move on to Article 8, case number 23-3764, Jipping.
Oh, you Madison twice tonight?
She's coming up twice.
Yeah.
By the way, after your case is called, you don't have to necessarily stick around. I see some people doing that and it's like hours and it's not a requirement.
But we enjoy these,
We enjoy it.
Extra people,
Not a
so.
requirement.
but if you want to leave, you can.
Yes.
Okay.
And we don't normally have hot weather like this, so it's nice to take advantage of it, right?
Free air conditioning.
Okay, we have an application from John and Lisa Jipping. They are on 7779 Silverthorne Drive Southeast. And they are requesting a special use permit to build or replace a barn that is over 832 square feet. This is a 13-acre parcel along Buttrick. It has access on Buttrick and Silverthorne. All of the setbacks have been met or have been granted variance at the May 9th meeting of 2023. So they currently have a variance for the placement of the barn to be replaced. They are looking to replace the barn because of an extensive inspection they had with the builder that resulted in it cannot be salvaged, it needs to be replaced. So the applicant is looking to do that. And they are presenting a 2,500 square foot barn. I have the images, building plans up on the screen. And the access will be via Buttrick and on the west side, also leading to the home, and it has been indicated that will be crushed gravel. The height has been agreed with the builder that it will not exceed our maximum of 22 feet. And it does meet the 60-foot minimum side yard setback to allow for that height. The square footage, again, 2,500 square feet, about 60 by 40. The area that it's in is our ARC district, that's a mix of residential and the Buttrick Preserve is directly across from where this barn would be located. So it's, if you know Buttrick, it's kind of a relatively hilly, wooded, more agricultural feeling area with residential PUDs. The barn that they have here, it would be the largest accessory building in the immediate area that I could find. But it is consistent with the previous use and barn that was there. So I did not think that it would be injurious to any nearby residents. It's being rebuilt in the same location and actually will have more light and air circulation than the previous or existing barn. The use is for just for personal storage. The applicant indicated they have a big boat, they have multiple cars, they want to get a tractor for mowing all of their acreage. And that's about the extent of what I think should be presented. The recommendation I have is that it be approved and with conditions that it not be used to run a business or for a living space, and that any outdoor lighting that they have would adhere to our standards. The applicant is aware of both of these conditions and agrees to them. And I have not received any letters of support or the latter.
Any questions from Addison? Member Rowland, Member Bruno?
So they're building a 2,500 square foot barn, and was the old barn 832, or you said it's over 830? So it's just going from 800, and I'm approximate numbers, 832 square feet to a 2,500 square feet. Is that what?
So yes, it is larger, but both of them were larger than 832. And I'm going to zoom in on this site plan here.
What do you mean both of them? So they're dropping two barns and they're building.
No,
No,
832
there's-
is the trigger to go through this process.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the size of the barn that's there now?
I believe it's, oh, the applicant might know better. It's, I want to say,
38 by 50. Okay.
yeah, and he's just I guess he indicated when I asked why the size, that was the standard size to do a 40 by 60, and it made sense for what they need to store.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Not considerably larger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
no.
see on here.
I just was like, when I read it, I'm like 832 to 2,500. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
I measured it at 1,500 square feet.
Did you? Okay.
That was gonna be my guess.
Member Bruno?
You'd mentioned that it's not taller than 22 feet. Is that part of the ignorance? Is that part of our ordinance? And if so, is it 22 feet? Because the drawing says 22 feet to the midpoint of the roof, not to the peak of the roof, nor the peak of the what do you call those?
The dormer.
Stormers.
Stormers.
So our ordinance is 22 feet is the maximum height to the we measure height by midpoint of the roof, and the maximum height in accessory building can be 22 feet. So that's just why we made that verification with the builder before they submit plans.
That's great. That looks like in line. It says there's an existing driveway at Buttrick. I see that. I don't see any connection to the barn. And then it says there will be a west side approach that will be gravel. Is that captured on any of our provided drawings?
So the accesses were not provided except for on this. There are a few. You can see kind of driveways coming off of each of those entrances on the north and east. And so that prompted my question to ask, will you be having access? So there is an existing drive off of Buttrick that they'll probably just re-gravel a bit, but it's not on the site plan, but it is existing on the property.
Okay, but again, I'm just hard to understand tonight. So there's an existing drive that goes nowhere near the barn. And then they say they're gonna put an additional drive to the west, but then you show me a drawing that has now 3 drives. So I'm kind of confused as to how they all connect.
So the one on the east side is the existing, that there's an existing driveway off of Buttrick. That is indicated here on the east side. That is where the driveway will connect to the existing barn, which is the same place where the new barn is being placed.
And then is there
The-
another driveway that's gonna be
And
built?
then I was told there'll be access from the house up on the west side. The house is in the northwest corner. And the barn is on the far east side, so there'll be some sort of connection was indicated to me. The applicant can clarify the access points as well. Yeah,
I'll try with an easier question. So I believe there's two residences on this parcel, if I'm not mistaken. And at least in the pictures, it looks like there's two houses.
Those were all removed as part of their last variance.
Okay, so the other accessory buildings on the parcel have been removed as well?
yeah, the only thing remaining is the existing barn and their home.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Richardson.
So maybe this is nitpicky, but the application and all the paperwork in my packet spells Silverthorne without an E at the end. There is an E at the end, right? I don't know if
No.
that matters, but
At least not on the drawings, there's not. On the drawing, there isn't. either.
okay. I mean,
Oh.
whatever, however the street name is spelled, we should spell it the right way. And then, again, there's a part here on staff comments where it says the acreage and then the existing home square footage and then the accessory building square footage. Do we typically include the garage and the basement when we're counting home square footage? I've never heard of that personally. And then I guess my only other question is this near that stream that crosses Buttrick, or is this on the other side of that? Does this affect that at all?
I don't know for certain where the stream is on the property. Do you know? Brian?
To the south. Well, it depends on which stream you're talking about, but there is a stream to the south, but it's quite a ways away.
I don't have the map in front of me.
Thank you.
It's at least 300 feet to the south. It doesn't border this parcel in the vicinity of that barn. There's another 3-acre parcel between the barn and that stream.
Okay.
Then
Any other
what was your
questions?
question about the square footage?
Oh, I mean, I guess it just sort of casually as an aside mentions the square footage of the house, but it says that includes
Existing.
the garage and the basement. I don't think we include the garage or the basement when we're measuring square footage of a house.
Yeah, an assessment would only consider finished living space, and then they qualify the other parts differently.
And then my other question was just how do you spell the street name?
On the map,
Yeah, I
on
guess
Regis maps, there isn't any.
Yeah, I saw both different spellings, so yeah, we can confirm.
There is no E.
On the Regis map
County
that
map.
I'm hitting right now, it
I-
says E, but
I saw both
Doesn't-
spellings, that's
okay.
why
They live there. How do they spell it?
the applicant can likely confirm the
applicant's here.
spelling.
So.
Okay, I have one last one. In both their application and in I'd say the mirror image from the township, it makes reference to personal storage. I saw boats, I saw cars, I saw a future tractor. But then when I actually look at the drawings, I see a loft and I see what I think is a full bathroom complete with shower. So I see kind of a finished end of the storage area. Has that been addressed as to why storage would require kind of a living space?
There's no living space in the accessory building, and that's been made clear to the applicant that that can't be used as living space. The restroom is allowed to be in the building.
In a loft above it.
And when we asked the applicant what the use was, it was for personal storage and what I listed, so I also made a condition so that it could be solidified as not being used for living space.
so I have a question. You say that bathroom's okay to be on there, but it looks, and I gotta blow the drawing up, but it looks like there's a shower in there too. I mean, when you say bathroom, is it just sink and toilet, or do we allow a tub shower in there? That's what it looks like to me, but I can't.
And the next page shows that there's actually a loft. I think.
We have in the past.
Have we? Okay.
If we've done work on a farm, often you want to clean off before you come back into the house.
Okay.
That's what that is usually.
Right.
Yeah, we just use the condition to make it extra clear.
Okay.
Member Rissy?
And then does that mean if there's a bathroom there, is this connecting to their home septic? Where's the water going?
Ask them.
I would refer to the applicant for
Okay.
that. Yeah.
They're here. Let's ask them. Does anybody else have any questions for Madison? We have the right to bring her back too, so. Thank you, Madison.
You did great, Madison, both times. Good job.
If the applicant's present, which I suspect you are the applicant. if
You're
you
not
wouldn't
an
mind
easy
coming
one.
forward. Ooh, they have a representative.
Correct.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Sam Kilberg. The address is 39577 Woodward Avenue, Suite 300, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48304. And I'm here on behalf of the Jippings who are here in attendance as well.
What's your relation to?
I'm counsel for them,
Oh, all
their
right,
attorney.
counsel, all right, interesting.
Yeah. You'll see my letter as a part of the application materials that I submitted. So yeah, this dates back and going back to this project. So we've been working on this for about a year. The Jippings owned this other parcel here. Last year, we did a lot combination, worked with the township. A part of that is there was an existing home on the property that we had to tear down. And at that point in time, we received a variance to leave this historical barn on the property. And the thought was to just leave it, maybe, try and fix it up. It was kind of a historical barn. Since that time, we received a variance last year, right around this time in June. And we've had many contractors out to the property. And from what we're being told is it's just a health safety issue. We've included a report of a property inspection that just pretty much shows that it's really not salvageable at this point in time. So we'd like to build a barn on the property in the same place because the barn's always been there and it seemed like the most logical place to put it. So we received a variance to build a barn, unanimous approval at the last ZBA hearing on May 9th to build a barn. And the barn that we are proposing is about the same square footage as was indicated. It's 2,500 square feet. The one currently existing now is over 823 square feet. So per the ordinance, we have to receive a special land use approval. And this barn is really going to be kind of historic. You can see from the elevation photos, this isn't going to be a modern barn. As the staff points out in their report, it's going to be rebuilt with architecture that reflects a barn and rural characteristics that fit the ARC district. And that's exactly what the Jippings want to do here. It's for personal storage. As the staff points out, this barn is not proportionally excessive for this property. And it won't really have an impact on adjoining property owners. I thought a part of that at the ZBA hearing, actually, some of these one of the neighbors came and spoke in support of it. So the Jippings have been speaking to their neighbors. They haven't received any negative feedback. So they're really here to build a beautiful barn. To answer your questions on the access, so I know those came up. There is an existing gravel road, but this is actually the drive. Excuse me. This is actually the drive for a home that lives on this parcel.
Okay.
So there is an existing driveway from the other home and that will service it. So we did a quick drawing on mine, which I'll show. There will actually be two, so it'll be connected and the entrance will be off Electric Ave. They're not going to put a massive driveway connecting all that. That makes sense.
Okay.
I think that makes more. So
Are the Jippings present? Are they willing to speak? It'd be great if you'd come up. I appreciate you have counsel here, but
You can put that.
Yeah, put yours back up just so I can
I'm
see.
trying to
it,
draw
yeah.
a drive to the west connecting the.
Thank you. That's helpful, by the way. Thank you.
yeah, and there is, and I can pull up my phone because you can see it still has a photo of the home. The home actually that was torn down was kind of in this general area.
So there's an existing drive there right now, right? Okay. Okay, so you're just gonna, and then loop it in and then connect it to,
can we get them to say their names real quick? So I have it.
sorry, yeah.
John Jipping, 7779 Silverthorne Drive, Southeast Ada, Michigan.
And your significant other?
Lisa Jipping, 7779 Silverthorne, no E,
Thank you.
Drive Southeast.
That answers the
Ada.
question.
There you go.
Road sign.
Yeah,
No, we-
excellent.
That was a big question.
Yeah,
Thank you. It was a mic dropper.
We thought we had a- we were corrected.
no.
So then you've got a line kind of coming off. Is there another driveway there?
No, that was my.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
See, this is.
So what about the third door though? So in the applications, I don't know if it's the township's version.
they showed the drive coming off the back. We are not doing that. We want to preserve the field. So the drive will just be coming to the side and to the front. Because those will be overhead doors, garage doors.
But it is an exit, but it'll exit into the field.
Oh, yeah. So our township note, there's an existing drive at Buttrick Avenue that we paved with stone is correct. The west side approach to the garage will be gravel is incorrect. There is no west side approach.
No, that is correct.
That is correct. There's no.
There's no east and there's no,
There's no west.
or no, there's no west. There's north and east, right? Right.
So am I confused or am I right? So there is no west, right?
You're correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so
No
it's
west.
just the north here and the east here.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that, Member Rudolph?
Yeah, just we have so many issues with stormwater runoff and
Oh,
to go back to their new house, that is a long ways and that's a lot of impervious surface or somewhat pervious surface and. Okay, and it looks like it's on a plateau, so yes, that addresses
It's
that.
gravel too, so we'll continue.
Cloud runners are for.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I think I had one more, so let me scroll, sorry.
No, that's all
It was,
Member Ridley.
I have a question for Madison or Brian after we're through with the applicant before we
Yep.
make a motion to go to public hearing.
Oh, all right, perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Member Rudolph.
So I'm gonna take my previous question to Madison and Ms. Member Rissy's question and roll them into one if I may. So it gives me great pause to see a full bathroom with a loft above it. Under the statement of we're replacing simply a barn that was there and it's for storage. I don't think the previous barn probably had full hookups and I don't think I had a loft. It looks.
Has a
Yeah,
lot,
okay.
yeah.
It just looks a little different than the write-up. Is there anything you could comment on that? Would you be opposed to us excluding that?
Or maybe
Previous-
give us
the previous-
a description,
previous
give
barn
us a
had-
description of what you're gonna use the bathroom for. I think that will help the members of the planning.
We're just gonna
Commission.
use it to clean up there because it's a long way to walk to the bathroom and we don't wanna
Okay.
use the field.
But nobody's gonna be living in this barn.
No, the storage up there. It was consistent with what the barn was
So
before.
not an
The lot.
office, not in, no rec room, no
No.
home theater.
No.
No,
No one's gonna come back in 3 years and ask to turn it into a bed and breakfast. That's my concern. It's a logical step to the next and say, well, it's already there.
I think we can stipulate what it can be used for.
It's you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's-
no, I
it's-
absolutely.
all-
It's used for
And-
accessory building. That's all right.
That is one of the conditions that we are fine with, is that the accessory building will not be used to run a business or for a living space.
Right.
So that's already covered.
And,
It's already covered.
and that's a standard condition we have on all our accessory buildings. So we've never had anybody come in and ask to make one into a
Approved.
bed and breakfast.
I'll wait till but we have approved bathrooms in barns before.
Okay.
All the reasons they're talking about, so.
Yeah,
It's just a long way to go back to the house.
Yeah.
I get that.
It'll be a septic field that's right there. City water.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicants?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
We'll call
much
you
for
back
coming
after
up.
The public hearing.
Yeah.
Did you still have your question for Madison? Should we bring her back up?
I do. She probably could answer from her chair, but,
I don't know if she have a mic. She.
or Brian could,
Definitely
but
that.
so my question is this, the applicant mentioned that they sought a variance from the ZBA for this, and I'm confused as to why that would be necessary if it's a single home on a single parcel. Why would they need a variance for an accessory building?
It's technically in the front yard because it's between the home and Buttrick, because the parcel now extends all the way to Buttrick.
Okay.
So the variance was for an accessory building in the front yard.
But we've approved at the planning commission, we've approved buildings in the front yard before if they are in a situation where the lay of the land, so to speak, doesn't warrant the building in the backyard.
Correct. There's 3 standards that have to be met for a variance not to be needed.
Okay,
So that's pretty rare. Most of the time when it comes to you in the front yard, it's already received a variance from the zoning board.
okay. Thank you.
Motion to go to public hearing,
So move.
moved by member Rissy, supported by member Nordhook. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, at this time, we'll go to public hearing. If anybody is here wishing to speak on this matter, Madison, if we have anybody on Zoom raising their hand. Hearing none, I hear a motion to move out of public hearing,
So move.
moved by member Rissy, supported by member Nordhook. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any discussion?
All right, so there's,
Talk about the bathroom? You wanna
there's
discuss
2
there?
things that I'd like to have the driveway on one of the drawings that's submitted to the township.
Okay, Do you
right?
want that separate, or do you want that as part of the approval when they submit final plans that,
Yeah.
that we sign off on? Is
Yes,
that
yeah,
would be
yeah.
acceptable?
Yeah, and I want,
Asking the applicant, is that something that you feel comfortable with?
yeah, just so we know where it is and where it's going and
Yep.
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
perfect. And then the other thing is I'd like the third. The picture that's up right now, there's 3 driveways going in. They
So
said they want to
fix it.
remove one. Yeah, fix it.
Okay,
And get that one
applicant's
removed.
comfortable with that?
So. Whichever one you guys are removing, either the one that's up now, you guys have 3 driveways. You said one of them, so just get us a clean drawing with only the 2. Please.
And then I had a
It's
question.
member Richardson.
So the bathroom that's gonna be in this accessory building, that's septic, or that is city water?
Septic with city
Both.
water. It's both. It's city water and then the sewer is done by the septic.
Okay,
That's consistent with what's out there.
wasn't sure if it went that far to Buttrick. I'm not super familiar with where.
There's no sewer on Buttrick.
Yeah, but there is city water.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, member Rissy.
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve this with the following conditions. The accessory building is not used to run a business or used for living space, and any outdoor lighting adheres to our township ordinance. And the applicant must submit a drawing and construct this in a way that they have the driveway shown on the north and east side for access to the building.
Does anybody hear a motion to support that?
Support.
Or by member Roland, motion made by member Rissy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
Opposed? Did I hear a second opposed?
Second opposed.
Okay, so we've got, it's passed. Motion is passed. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
This will go to, no, this is an accessory building. That's where it ends.
That's done.
Okay. Had to do some quick math there. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, you have so many empty chairs.
3. Yeah.
All right, hang on. All right,
Good night.
moving on to case number 9, Article 9, case number 223739 North Point Bank.
So this is the final review of the PUD application by the planning commission. So I've taken the preliminary plan that was approved at the previous meeting and then drafted an amendment to the PUD ordinance to accommodate it. With this request, the amendment is very simple and just changes the permitted building size from 90,000 square feet to 98,000 square feet to accommodate that preliminary plan. So at this time, if the planning commission agrees with the PUD amendment, you may then forward a positive recommendation to the township board for approval of the PUD amendment and the site plan. And the township board will then hold a final public hearing to consider the request.
Okay, any questions for Brian? We don't have a public hearing on this, so we'll move straight to discussion. If there's no question. Anybody have questions? Remember,
Just a minor one. The content looks great. It looks pretty straightforward, but I'm kind of confused as to how the replacements work. So strike the first paragraph where it says 90,000, replace with a paragraph that says 98,000, pretty straightforward. But then you have a section 2 and section 3. Do they replace the section 2 and section 3 of the amendment to the original PUD, or to the section 2 and 3 of the original PUD? Or where is it? Because the 2 and 3 don't seem to align with anything.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's a good clarification question. Those section 2 and 3. So section 1 is really the amendment to the actual PUD.
Okay.
And that's where it's bold. Then section 2 and 3 is really for the posting of this amendment. So this amendment then becomes effective when it's approved by the board and then published in the GR press. So it's really just a section 1
My
that's
error.
amending
I
it.
see, section 1, okay. Section 5 is the reference to the document. Section 1, 2, and 3 are your document.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Good question.
Makes complete sense.
okay, any other questions for Brian? Any discussion?
Discussion, just another comment. Again, I still am not fully understanding how increasing the size of the building and increasing the amount of employees would not therefore increase the traffic on 28th Street Court. That doesn't add up to me, and I am concerned about the traffic on 28th Street Court for the record.
Okay.
Other than that, I have no other questions, comments, or concerns about those guys.
Anybody like to make a motion? Just because we make a motion doesn't mean that we have to vote affirmatively for it. I can't do it. So if somebody.
Before we do,
Yeah.
in last week's minutes, trustee Timmy there mentioned that he would like to put a moratorium after this. Is that kind of your thought process? And how do we implement a moratorium? Like, I don't think that this applicant should stand in their way. So I want to be clear on that, but I am in agreement that there should be some addressing both of the members at the end. There's viewpoint that this should maybe the last free pass or something, and we should start looking at this more
I agree, it's
stringently.
not this person's fault,
Okay.
but we have a problem with that. PUD is getting too congested for the streets and the egress. For that facility out on the Craft and out on the 28th Street, so I think this one should go through.
Okay.
But I also think that we ought to be looking at, let's just stop until we can figure out what's going on there.
Right, and you had asked about asking the road commission about some traffic numbers and how that intersection is functioning, and we can follow up with them as a start.
Yep, we gotta.
Officially, we would ask staff to investigate this, and Leslie, keep me honest, and while that's happening, any applications that would come in, we could put on hold, right? I don't think we can put an indefinite moratorium on applications coming in without having some form of action happening.
Yes, typically we would do a moratorium by ordinance and it would have a specific expiration date unless otherwise extended by resolution of the township board.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But we can hold applications for an indefinite amount of time if we're actively reviewing something. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't believe you have any specific shot clocks in your zoning.
When I had Mike
ordinance,
look at this
so-
before, he said that we did.
Yeah,
So
some
yeah.
ordinances do. I don't typically like that, because why would we wanna
we would,
impose a self deadline on the township? But
Yeah.
as long as there's no shot clock in your zoning ordinance, then no, you could,
Yeah.
you could hold it.
so I think if you're all comfortable with that, and I'll let you member Rizzi speak, that could be a way that we could obtain that is direct Brian to start looking at it and hold applications until we come to a conclusion. Member Rizzi.
I was just thinking maybe prudent to review an application because perhaps it may include a solution to the problem.
And I think we'll defer to Brian's unique ability to
Right.
analyze said applications and provide.
Good point.
Thank you. I agree with all of that, but in general, they have not been providing solutions. We've just been adding more and more and more to these tiny, almost one-way streets. I'm glad we're gonna do this.
Well, I would make the motion on this one, but I don't think it's appropriate for me since I raised it.
All right, I might as well take a crack at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go. Unless you'd like to, Mr. Richardson, zoom in and make sure I get all of the.
If not, member Roland's ready.
No, that's fine.
Roland's ready. I don't wanna take anybody's thunder here.
Nope, you're not taking it.
I gotta scroll.
Be a
to
little-
the- There's way too many pages here. All right. I make a motion to
In case number 20.
approve case number 22-3739 North Point Bank. The PUD amendment as a PUD amendment as written.
I hear support. Support made by member Roland. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Article 10, Cascade Township.
Oh, boy, can we?
Just to clarify, that's a recommendation to the township board, correct?
That is.
Got it. We had said the motion was approved, but I just
Thank
want to
you.
clarify it's a recommendation to the board to
Yeah.
approve.
And then we're going to consider recommendation of the Township Board for proposed amendments to the master plan.
All right, so at the April 12 meeting, the Township Board approved the proposed master plan amendment for distribution, which has started the required 42-day public review period, which is now ended. So the planning commission is required to hold a public hearing before making a recommendation to the Township Board on the amendment to the master plan. 2 comments were received during the review period, and those are both included in the meeting packet. So a map of the proposed amendment to the future land use map is attached. The amendment would change the future land use designation of the highlighted area from industrial to rural residential. So at this time, if the planning commission approves of the proposed amendment, you may then forward a positive recommendation to the township board. And then the township board would then review the proposed amendment and have an opportunity to adopt the attached resolution.
Excellent. We had two letters in the packet, one from the airport, who was here tonight. Casey, thank you. And one from the Michigan Department of Public Transportation. We responded to that. Brian sent two letters to them. Leslie was kind enough to draft them, and since she's here, I was hoping that you could perhaps provide some insight to the planning commission about how both entities were conflating what ordinances are and how they are different from planning.
Sure, the particularly the letter that was received from MDOT was talking specifically about the process in which the planning commission and the township goes through to adopt amendments to its master plan. Some of the citations in the letter were specifically related to zoning ordinance amendments, which of course are different than a master plan amendment. The master plan process is set forth in the Planning Enabling Act, not the Zoning Enabling Act. So we provided a response letter to MDOT noting the differences between those two provisions, but acknowledging that there are certainly some restrictions, of course, on the township when it comes to considering, master plan amendments that involve airport property, of course, providing copies of those proposed amendments to the airport manager, as well as making sure that our master plan incorporates any airport layout plans or any airport approach plans that have been adopted by an airport authority. So certainly there are provisions of the Planning Enabling Act that apply to this particular situation. But in our legal opinion, the Planning Commission's gone through the appropriate process in order to consider these master plan amendments, and we didn't see any particular concerns with respect to the proposed amendments as it relates to what MDOT had mentioned.
Thank you, Ms. Abdu. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. I know there was some questions on that, given that we only had the letters and not the responses, which is typical, right? But we did definitely reach out to each of those individuals. So I'd like to move to public hearing, and then we can.
I have a couple of quick questions for Brian, just to explain the map, right? So and I think that's the same one I have up. So it looks. All right, so there's Thornhills, there's Craft. The purple, it explained to me some of this. It's the purple is transitional mixed use. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the transitional mixed use is again a different land use designation within the master plan. And that kind of definition is it's intended to provide flexibility and development by meeting demand for services, employment, and housing within a context offering greater potential for walkable neighborhoods within employment and transitional areas surrounding the airport. It lists desired uses as research and development, office, warehouse, fulfillment, retail, showrooms, eating and drinking establishments, hotels, attached residential, multi-use buildings, incubators, indoor recreation.
Okay, and then community residential, I think I can probably figure that one out, and community mixed. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yes, member Brunel and then member Brissett.
Thank you.
Can you explain, there's like a translation that happens that I wasn't aware of. I thought at our last meeting, we made a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that we keep the future use in line with its current zoning, which is ARC, which is agricultural, rural conservation. And somehow it's now rural residential. The residential kind of threw me off. It seems like all of these,
It's the planning and the zoning are different.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense. And so we are reverting back to what the original master plan was, and it would then keep the current zoning, which is in fact ARC.
Okay.
So again, yeah, that rural residential is the future land use designation that correlates most closely to that ARC zoning district.
But there is a difference. So I'm just wondering, is that just common for townships to have? I get one's future and one's current, but that's like, and I get that, like, we have a future dictionary, a current dictionary, we add to the dictionary, but we don't necessarily change the meaning. It seems like we change the meaning. Is that purposeful and oversight?
Yeah, you'll see the future land use ones, they aren't just the same as the zoning district. They are again anticipating slight changes to that and use it as kind of a broader designation. The zoning then narrows it down specifically to what can be done there.
Okay, so
But
this is meant to be more
typical
abstract, is what you're saying. Okay.
But we aligned it to how
The closest.
students are, yes, and remember, Missy, go ahead.
Well, and generally, I agree with that mentality, but my concern comes in with oh, of course, our technology still doesn't work, so I can't show you exactly what I'm thinking, but if you will, where the north-south runway and the east-west runway intersect, the southeast corner, there's that large shaded area there, I believe, is that, what is the future land use of that shaded area?
That gray one
Yeah,
would be industrial.
okay, that's what I thought. I just feel like that is out of place right against rural residential. And that's, I guess, what I don't like about the future land use map is that really, I think that should not be industrial. It should be listed as airport or something along those lines. I understand why the future land use map is the way it is. I just putting residential next to industrial is I have a difficult time with that.
As long as we're discussing difficult times. At our meeting, we proposed to the board, I think the map essentially as drawn. Is my understanding when it went to the board that they punted it back to us and said that they'd like to see this extended to, I believe, Craft.
It was mentioned at the board meeting. I don't know if there's any
And
specific
we were not
direction.
given direction. We can make the Roland amendment.
Okay,
When after we get past the public hearing, I was gonna bring that up in discussion.
okay.
We can absolutely do that. We were told by the board and we have unanimous support from the board to do that.
Okay, and then I guess my final question. Combining, I think these two gentlemen's, on that kind of topic of Craft. So the area to the west of Craft, south of 52nd, that is currently, I'm gonna say lavender maybe, for transitional mixed use. That we had talked about ad nauseum as well. And this captures that. This is capturing our wishes for that. Because I thought there was a slight tweak there, but was the tweak actually leaving it?
It wasn't related to planning. It was related to the specific zoning, which we're not addressing tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Brian, I hope that, yes, okay. Anybody else have anything else before we?
Just one quick for
Yeah.
Brian, transitional mixed use, would a gas station fall in there in that?
Well, for example, one of it lists corresponding zoning districts. It says transitional industrial office, airport commerce subzone 2, and then leaves one to be determined. So gas stations are permitted in the transitional industrial zone.
But not the transitional mixed use.
So
or is that the same?
mixed use doesn't list every use that would be permitted. Again, it just kind of correlates back to the general use, and then specific zoning districts list the exact permitted use. So one of the corresponding zoning districts, it lists as transitional industrial, and that zoning district does allow gas stations.
Thank you.
Hear a motion to move this to public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by member Rowland, supported by member Nordhook. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a lot of interest in this. So I'm gonna really stick hard to limiting it to 5 minutes per person. So if anybody would like to speak about this matter, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Chatty Antuma, and I'm an attorney that represents DEG Development and Visser Development. Visser Development owns a property at 5111 Thornapple Drive. I don't think my personal address is relevant to
Your
their
business address, that would be,
it's downtown 220 Lion Avenue.
thank you.
Yep. So Visser owns an approximately 80-acre parcel at 5111 Thornapple Drive. They spent millions of dollars on that parcel in 2021. I think you guys know that. they were planning on using that parcel for industrial use. And what did they rely on? The master plan that you had in place for years. They also relied on a portion of your zoning ordinance. And that's going to be chapter 1302A. In that zoning ordinance, there's a designation, a transitional industrial designation that was specifically developed for my client's property. If you read your zoning ordinance, that's what it says. In the intent provision, that this property will one day be used for industrial property. This master plan change flies in the face of that. This recommendation from the Planning Commission that I assume you're all about to make has the potential to cost Visser and all these other property owners in the area millions of dollars. Now, I'm talking a lot about Visser, but there's actually a number of local property owners that have concern about what you're about to do. I've got a petition from them that you don't. So I want to get you that. Take a minute to pass that out, if that's okay? Sure. Can I approach?
Yeah.
While you're handing it out, can you summarize how many signatures? Let me get back to the microphone. We can get it recorded.
Pause the time.
Thank you.
I've got time, but. Yes. You said I was acting secretary.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do my job.
You're taking your duty.
Give him a vice chair, so.
Now, you asked me to summarize how many signatures. You can tell how many there are there. The reality is there's not too many parcels here that are affected by this zoning change, this master plan change. But this is the majority of them. The majority of the people that live in this area are asking you not to do that, not to make this master plan change. And there's a couple of reasons why. Industrial properties in Grand Rapids are at a critical low. I've got more to pass out to you, if you don't mind.
And just put it on the public screen.
Before we move on to the next document, can I just ask on this one here, there's Creative Ventures LLC, is just an oversight, there's not a signature, or that person elect not to?
It's on the next page.
It's on the next page.
Oh, okay, it's on there twice.
And I've listed the parcel numbers that each individual or corporation owns. So here's an industrial market demand summary that was produced by The Right Place. Now, the AC subcommittee did some pretty hard digging into this, and they got a lot of numbers. They got a lot of numbers saying there's no industrial property here in West Michigan, and specifically in Cascade Township. I don't know, I don't recall from the subcommittee's presentation that they provided you those numbers. I ask that you go back and take a look at that. I think they're going to be consistent with what The Right Place is saying here, that it's at a critical low. Now, local property owners want industrial zoning for several reasons. They've been holding these properties for years, waiting for this change to come, waiting for public utility to come. Now, how can we get public utility down to this area? How can we solve your PFAS problems? I have other clients that have problems with drinking water in this very area. It's full of saline. We can get public utility down there by bringing in industrial development to help subsidize that. It's one thing that my client's willing to do. And I believe that the other local property owners are on board with that plan as well. So these properties aren't really suitable for agricultural use. And what you're trying to do here is change this to residential use. That's certainly not appropriate for an airport area. Industrial property abutting the state's second largest airport just makes sense. Residential does not. Mr. Reese's comments earlier, he's got concern about residential property abutting industrial. What should abut industrial property? Industrial property. You've got M6 cutting off everyone else. It's a natural border. Well, not natural, we made it, but it makes sense. All but a few homeowners will be unaffected by this change. Okay, they're all on the other side of M6. They don't even get legal notice of a zoning change. Now, the airport submitted some commentary as well. Now, your legal counsel saying that what they've submitted may not be legally enforceable. But what I can tell you is what they're saying does make sense.
Time is up. Thank you.
Sir, may I have additional time? I was passing out stuff.
Nope.
There's not anybody else here.
We paused it for when you passed it out. We're giving every member of the public 5 minutes on this topic. Thank you.
And everybody else gets additional time.
If they want to pass something out that's acceptable, they can have additional time.
Oh, what I'm saying is that in these earlier public hearings, you had no limit. There's maybe 2 other people here tonight.
I appreciate your comments. Your time is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I'll pass these out as well.
Anybody else would like to speak? Thank you. Thank you. Hearing none, I can take a motion to move out of public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. A motion by member Rissy, supported by member Nordhook.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, the information that the committee came across by township staff and the report to us, that was, I believe, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, that was included in the packet to the planning commission that then we presented, was it not? Because I believe Sandra was going to attend that meeting and deliver the information, but she had a conflict, so she wasn't able to be here. But I believe the information was in the packet.
That's what I recall.
And I think we discussed it briefly, but the presentation that the planning commission got, or I mean, that the subcommittee got, never made it to the planning commission, but that was the intent.
I would have to double check, yeah, what was included when the subcommittee made their presentation.
I just wanted to make mention that that we did show you the information.
I
If
remember
you read
seeing
your
the
mail.
information. So,
I remember reading the
I,
information.
yeah, absolutely. So to suggest that we weren't
Right,
provided.
I just don't want the optics of that to.
No,
Yeah.
just a terrible mischaracterization of what really happened, but that's been pretty typical. So,
Okay, but on that topic, I do want to address the elephant in the room. So I'm not happy with the word residential and I. Because A, I think it misrepresents kind of what we talked about. And B, it gives them, a foot in the door of, they say the word residential in there and it's not appropriate next to an airport. But I think if we stick to the fact that current zoning, that's ARC maps to this, and there's a 1-to-1 mapping, I'm more comfortable with it. So if we kind of have that in the notes and on the record that that's the bin we're forced into, I feel more comfortable with.
it is, and I will present this again to the board. I will and make sure that Brian and I both note that to the board.
Because other than the word residential, I feel very comfortable with this because we're not, you look at the MDOT's letter, it basically talks about the airport reference point and the bowl that, buildings can only be so tall and they get taller as you move away. We're not violating any of that. We're not addressing any of these oddities that MDOT's claiming we are. We're not doing any of the oddities that the airport claims we are. They're kind of a bunch of red herrings from if you actually read the packets they gave us. It doesn't cover anything that they claim that it does from my perspective, and I think our lawyer just verified that, so.
It doesn't. In fact, the airport's here and they chose not to speak during the public hearing, which to me indicates that perhaps they recognize that it was a hearing. So we talked about potentially, I call it the Roland Amendment, expanding this to craft. Is there desire to do that? Certainly the township board, and I don't want to speak for them, but in speaking to the supervisor on the way here, she indicated she supported it, and I believe trustee Nordhook that others do support extending it to craft. Is that
Correct.
I obviously support it, so.
okay? Member Rissy.
Not to throw thorn on anybody's side, but my concern related to that is that the planning commission has recently approved development along the east side of Craft.
Yeah.
So to extend it all the way to Craft, I feel is a little overreaching maybe, just because of those recent approvals.
Could it be worded to say all the way to the properties coming off of Craft?
I would be more comfortable with that because I have a hard time telling somebody. You can have a popsicle today, but tomorrow you're not allowed to, just.
Well, I think the
I mean, I don't want-
thinking is, right, the east side of Craft, the businesses that are on the east side of Craft, but on Craft. Don't count into what.
So you're saying that the existing parcels on Craft would not be shaded as part
We're not
of,
going all the way to the middle of Craft, like we're going all the way to the properties coming off of Craft.
right?
I'd have to see it on a map, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting a little.
Well, I could draw it, but
What
the
did we
technology
recently-
doesn't work. so-
What did we recently approve on the east side of Grant?
Yeah, show me, Brian, what he's.
What's that?
So there's, there's two
Dentist office.
existing,
PUD,
two
I think.
existing commercial and industrial.
South of 36, we're staying on the roadway.
No, this isn't. the
So
same
right here
area.
on the map.
You have to.
So there's the existing kind of Pepsi bottling center on this larger parcel, and then right at the corner on the southeast corner of Craft and 36, there is that dental office as part of a PUD that was approved. within
Why
the
can't we
last
say any
2
future
years.
development? Those two existing there's already in development right now, fine, and then.
So what I'm saying is, why don't you just shade the area up to those parcels, but not
Right.
shade those
See what-
parcels?
Yeah,
They'd be non-conforming, which means that when they come back to say add more parking, they'd get blocked.
Right.
no, and I agree with what Scott's saying then, and just shade everything up to those two parcels then, because they're already in construction.
Sure.
And I do just want to note that it's clear all of this area east of that is already zoned industrial. So that is not ARC right now, it is zoned industrial. Just make sure everyone is aware of that.
Yeah. I'm okay with shading up to those two.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a I had to go all the way back to the thing and get the case number.
Well, what about the other? Well, I'll let you make your motion.
Okay, so, oh, there is no case number. All right, I'll make a motion to approve recommend the approval of the proposed changes on the map, going from future light industrial to get to the maps, apologize, to what are we calling it, residential, rural residential. And I'd like to extend that recommendation to include all the way up to Craft Avenue, excluding, I don't have the parcel numbers, but there's.
Alan, do you want to go to right
Two
here, run
east
drawings?
parcels.
Let me
Right
look.
there is where those parcels end.
Yes, perfect, right, up to that parcel.
And that's all south of 36?
Now that parcel right there in the middle. Yeah, you got the yellow dot just to the right of, I'm looking at just to the right of the yellow dot. Go to the,
Yep, that's all the Pepsi bottling. so
Right.
The edge of that parcel. would be
Right.
there.
right, and then come to the, yeah, so that. And then the other purple area too.
You're saying north of 36?
Yeah, so what I'm saying. Here, excuse me.
Is that this area right here, all this area. We grab this area right here.
Showing you the map. That's all developed, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all
Alan,
already.
Alan, that's, I don't think you intended that. There's already a ton of.
Is there stuff already
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
So then we're just grabbing this area right here?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my understanding. But
Okay.
again, that is all zone industrial already and has an off ramp coming to it right
Okay.
there. So
I wasn't aware that there was stuff
Yeah.
already here.
Yep.
Alan, what about the area down closer to 52nd? Are you doing anything with that or leaving it as it's drawn?
Street.
South and east of the runway?
Isn't that already grabbed on here? That down here, Scott?
Scott, you're referring to the airport.
Oh, you want that?
That one, yeah.
We have different requirements if we change the airport, if we, the master, do we not?
Well, I mean, there's the master plan designates that area as industrial as shown right now. And then you're correct, we can make zoning amendments to it as well.
Yeah, so that would. As much as we want to do it, tonight is not.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
is that not the area that's shaded this? It's
Correct.
same ownership though, but is it, how is the,
It'd be because it is already zoned industrial or industrial versus agricultural,
but he just said the area that he
area
shaded
that's
is already
gray.
his own industrial.
the gray area.
No, the area on the north side, he just said was zoned
It is all
industrial.
zoned industrial right now too.
Yeah.
You're telling me
But
it's the
that's
same
different,
zoning.
it's not Part in the airport area.
In the airport proper is what you're
Yes,
referring to.
and that's what you're suggesting changing, correct?
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand if it's the same. Well, it's not the same parcel though, is it? Because there's a
The
different
railroad.
parcel on either side of the railroad, or is it the same parcel?
I believe it's a different parcel on the other side of the road.
Let me
Again,
check
it's all
that.
zoned industrial currently and it has the off ramp exiting right to that area.
Right.
Not that area. Yeah. Okay, so then,
That's the same parcel number.
approve the current yellow area that's highlighted and then add the additional area to craft butting up to the parcels that are already in development. I don't know what the parcel numbers are, but
I hear support.
Support.
Support maybe by member Nordhook. Brian, would you call the roll?
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
member Richardson,
Yes.
Here Nordike,
Yes.
member Reese,
No.
member Bruno,
Yes.
member Roland,
yes.
Motion passes. Greg and Chad, you have an opportunity to go in front of the township board if you want 5 more minutes. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. The next motion or the next items a closed session. I'm going to make an exception because we do have the airport here. Do you have any desire to speak? So I don't want, we're going to go in closed session and I hate to have you wait here while we do that. So chair's discretion, it's up to you, Casey, if you want to speak. Yeah, come on forward. And again, just because I didn't get you on the microphone, if you can say your name and affiliation.
Sure. Casey Reese, representing the Airport Authority at 5500 44th Street Southeast.
Welcome, Casey.
Thank you. It occurs to me that we have very similar goals, planning the airport and planning the township, and that compatible land use related to and adjacent to airport is very important. It strikes me that future land use plans show that as residential land use. That is the concern, and that is what the airport tried to convey in our letter to you, which was included in the packet. That is intentionally why I chose not to speak, because our comments have been made. That we did not receive response to that letter prior to this meeting, so I feel you mischaracterized that in our stance in the choice not to comment. But specifically regarding this matter, our goal is residential developments within the vicinity of the airport, particularly on the future airport land use plans where there are noise impacts that were also provided to the township and not in your packet, are the primary concern. So that is the comment and what I care to share on future land use. Thank you for your consideration.
Well, thank you. And I want to comment too, that I do believe we have a vested interest moving forward to jointly plan, right? And I'll share this with you. We have a call coming up, right? I'll share it tonight too in front of the public. Our desire is both to maintain and monitor the groundwater. And I can go into a whole list of reasons for that, which I don't think we need to tonight. As you're doing your planning and your building, and also to have a buffer for our township. The great majority of our tax base comes from residential homes. And when we start to put industrial up, it lowers the potential taxable base within that community. And overwhelmingly, we've heard from our residents that they do not, on that side of the airport, wish or want to have industrial development. And our board unanimously supports that, and you'll see that at the next meeting. So, but we have a desire now that we've moved past this mess and we're starting to heal with the PFAS, to start working together. And I certainly hope that we can do that.
That has been our intent from the beginning. I
The
Agree
last
with-
4 years have been difficult.
I agree with your goals and again, have offered resources from not only the airport, but state planners that work around airports on a regular basis to help understand how to control the real impacts of airports, primarily noise. Historically, our airport has not had a noise problem because industrial developments make very good neighbors. Suggesting in your master plan that residential is appropriate use east of the airport is not appropriate. And that's again, the intent of our letter and what was conveyed, and that has not been addressed.
Sure, and certainly we understand your position.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Okay, I need to hear a motion to move to closed session.
So move.
Moved by member, supported by member Nordhook.
And just again, to note that enter the closed session pursuant to MCL 15.
Yes,
268.
MCL 15.268H, consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by the state or federal statute. So can I, everybody who approves, please say aye.
Wait, we need a roll call.
Lloyd.
for
Roll
that.
call, sorry, thank
Yeah.
you, Brian.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
member Richardson.
Yes.
Chair Nordike,
Yes.
member Reese,
Yes.
member Bruno,
Yes.
member Roland.
Yes. Should we turn off computers and stuff?
No, just go.
No.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying. Come back.